Howdy do! So for this video, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm on the PBE, and what I'm going to do in this video is both show you guys and explain the new items when it comes to the Marksman changes. This is going to be a little bit of a Jinx specific video, but I will kind of try and go over AD carry stuff in general, so if you're here for that, maybe you can get something out of it. On top of that, if you have any questions about something I could go over either too fast or not enough, make sure to ask me about that in the comment section down below. I'll be glad to have a discussion and try and answer some of those questions. The way this video is probably going to go is I'm going to start by just going over the new items, what they do, what they build out of, and stuff like that. And then go over some builds like on Jinx and maybe AD carries in general, because she kind of builds the same as some other AD carries as well. And then show you what those stats look like, maybe why you do and don't want to build them so far, at least in my opinion. But I do want to mention this is kind of just my opinion and me kind of just showing you guys what these things are. So with that said, just take a note, I'm not like the best AD carry in the world trying to teach everybody else something, right? Mainly I'm just trying to show you these items and stuff, so that way if you have a certain playstyle or you play a certain champion not named Jinx, but that will build these items, you can start getting an idea ahead of time before these hit live about what you might or might not want to try, especially if you don't have PvE access. So I'm going to stop wasting time rambling here and let's just get on with the video. So first I'm going to go over starting items if this thing doesn't freeze on me. Okay, so when it comes to starting items, the kind of current build on live with Jinx specifically, for example, is, you know, Runon's Hurricane, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon. Well, we'll talk about Infinity Edge first because of that, because Infinity Edge got one of the major changes that's being talked about. It no longer has any crit in it by itself whatsoever. It builds out of 2 BF swords, kind of like Deathcap does for the Mage update. And furthermore, it does have passives though. It doubles your crit chance, so in other words, if you have, say, a 30% crit chance from a Zeal item, this will double it to 60. But also, 20% of your critical strike damage is now converted into true damage. That is done because they want crit as a stat to still exist, but they want it to be more of a tank busting stat. They want squishies to not really get popped by crit anymore, and as such they want it to be more for a, hey, someone's tanky, it'll help you kill tanks. You'll still be able to kill squishies, of course, but not as fast and not as bursty. Now, I have my own opinions on that, as which case, as once it gets late game, I feel like if you're a damage type of champion of any sort, you kind of should be able to blow people up. Be it a mage, an assassin, an AD carry, whatever, but I'm not gonna let my bias try and get too much in this video. That's just this. Its cost was increased, by the way, to 3,700 gold. So it was 3,400, they increased the cost as well. But it does give you 80 attack damage now. So that might be something, if you're something like a Draven, and you just like that flat AD and you don't need crit, you might be able to want to build this for lane, well, you might be able to still get away with that without the crit because it gives so much AD for spinning axes. Just as an example, maybe not, but I'm just gonna throw that out there. Another one of the more newer things is a new item called Storm Razor, which this might be, it's funny that it costs 3,400 gold, because like Infinity Edge, I'm going to just do this so I don't get the AFK warning just real quick, but like Infinity Edge, this might be a new starting item for DPS AD carries, and even though it doesn't have crit, allow me to explain why I'm saying this. It now gives you 65% attack damage, now as if it ever existed prior, and it does give you 25% attack speed, something Infinity Edge didn't even do itself, right? If you haven't attacked for 2.5 seconds, your next basic attack will critically strike. So it does have quote-unquote crit in it as well. And when you critically strike, you'll gain 25% attack speed and gain 8% movement speed for 1.5 seconds. So despite the fact that it doesn't have crit as a stat in itself, it does give you crit if you have an attack for 2.5 seconds. So there is kind of that, kind of like a, hey, a free crit, if you will, like Jin's 4th shot's a free crit idea, but in an item form. On top of that, it will give you DPS that you might need, and as a kind of Infinity Edge replacement, possibly, you might be building this simultaneously with the Zeal item, which is you will be getting some crit from a Zeal item, or if you complete that item before this item too, as well. So with that said, again, AFK warning, so I'm just going to do this real quick. Zeal items, let's talk about Zeal. Zeal got a 100% gold increase, so for instead of being 1,200 gold, it's now 1,300 gold. Furthermore, all of the Zeal items now actually all cost 2,800 gold, kind of think like Season 5, back when it was like an Infinity Edge rush into Phantom Dancer into Last Whisper. Now Phantom Dancer, as well as all the other Zeal items, all equally cost that. It's kind of funny though, because they don't all give the best stats or the same stats, so there is that. Like Rapid Fire Cannon, arguably by itself gives the worst stats, but still costs as much as Phantom Dancer, which gives the most stats in terms of attack speed percentage and stuff like that. So another major change that's being talked about is Last Whisper. First and foremost, Giant Slayer has been removed. Last Whisper now just does armor penetration, period. Not bonus armor penetration, not flat or anything like that. It's just armor penetration across the board. Some people are worried this will make it busted again, like in Season 5, because that was part of the problem with, let's say, the build back in Season 5 was you build Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, and then you really start popping people, especially squishy people, once you got that Last Whisper. So they're bringing it back. Well, isn't that going to cause some problems? Maybe and maybe not, right? If you're in the mid game and a mage or an enemy AD carry only has 60 to 70 armor, you're only doing 10% of that with this item, that's only about 6 or 7 damage, right? Versus a tank who maybe has, say, 400 armor because they're Malphite, because why do people play that champion? You know, you're doing 40 damage on top of all the other damage you're doing as well. You're not just doing that damage by itself. Just by the way, I know I worded that pretty terribly. Mortar Reminder also costs 2,800 gold, and it actually builds exactly the same, but I brought this up mainly for Lord Dominic's regard. It builds out of Last Whisper and a pickaxe now, but it also still costs 2,800 gold. Let's move again to avoid the Leave Buster, or the AFK warning, whatever. Bloodthirster and Blade of the Ruined King actually both do cost 200 gold less each, so instead of the 3,700, it's 3,500, and Blade of the Ruined King, instead of being the 3,400, it's now 3,200 gold. That, I think, is to give people a bit more options if they don't necessarily need, let's say, a Last Whisper. Maybe there's no tanks in the game and you maybe want some more damage, because you do maybe go an old build of like a Zeal item into Infinity Edge. You have the 60% crit, which we'll get into that a little bit, and as such you want some more damage then behind your crits, so you just want to build more damage items, and a bit more reliably, maybe. We'll see mainly how that goes on people's opinion. I think that one's a little bit opinionated on my part, so I'll try not to say that, but what I will say is, these changes look to be like, hey, what if you're an AD carry that doesn't even really want to build crit, like a Draven, or maybe a lane bully like a Lucian or something like that, where you don't really necessarily want to go that route. I think that's why some of those items got changed, so you can maybe go that route instead of having to go with the Zeal items and crit if you really don't want it. But speaking of, let's talk about Essence Reaver, because that got a change. Essence Reaver is now 3,200 gold. It gives you 70 attack damage, 20% cooldown reduction, and 300 mana. Yes, an AD carry item, which is actually just an AD item period, right? There's some AD users that might want this that aren't AD carries for all we know. On top of that, it has some unique passives. Basic attack, refund 1% of your missing mana. Unique passive, after you cast your ultimate, your next basic attack within 10 seconds grants you Essence Flare. For 8 seconds, on a 30-second cooldown. Essence Flare, gain 30% attack speed, and basic attacks refund 20% of your remaining non-ultimate cooldown. So when I see this, first of all, it builds out a BF Sword, it still builds out the Warhammer, and now builds out of a Sapphire Crystal. When I see that, I kind of think of Lucian. Lucian's one of the first ones that come to my mind. In my opinion, and my opinion is not really that great, because I said I'm not a challenger AD carry, like teaching everybody else the way it should be. I'm just kind of giving you guys this information so that you guys can then figure out what you think is good or not. But I will say, I do actually like Crit Lucian. I just understand that he's not better than, say, the other Lucians that people play, and that's why people don't play Crit Lucian. But, like, if you go on live, Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, and all that on Lucian, it is pretty decent late game. You're not going to outdo a Tristana or something or anything like that. But I'm saying, like, as a champion, it can function with the Essence Reaver, slinging your spells, getting it refunded, the cooldown reduction, and all that stuff. But it's not perfect. So the idea with this item apparently is to make it a bit more perfect, so you can play stuff like that and earlier, right? Because when you play Lucian, you probably want to smash lane and try and snowball the game before 30 minutes, or at least before the really late game. So that build, the Essence Reaver build on live, while it might be good, it's still a late game build you're probably not playing that champion for. So that's what they want to kind of do with Essence Reaver, make that an item for that. So now that I've taken 10,000 years, let's get into some builds really quick. So what I'm going to do real quick is level up really quick all the way to level 18. Because when it comes to Jinx, Jinx is a late game champion. So let's just look at some late game stats after all, right? That's probably one of the better ways to look at this. So let's look at the live build, look at the stats on the live build. So we said, what, Runon's Hurricane, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon. Let's say you have to deal with a tank, because you're a tank kill. Your DPS AD carry means you're going to kill tanks. And let's say you want some sustain against, let's say, something, so you got a Bloodthirster. Let's say that's what a on live build looks like. We need some boots. That might be a little bit helpful. Just a little bit. Okay, so let's look at some stats. I'm going to go over here because I'm going to spawn a dummy. Enemy dummy. There we go. We won't attack it yet. So the stats now look like this with this build setup, right? We have 323 AD, give or take. If you switch up the Bloodthirster for, let's say, a mage is out of control, so you got Maw of Mortius or something like that. Attack speed wise, it's not quite there yet because, like Jinx is one of the champions I think will end up being the best, one of the better, not the best, but one of the better people coming on the other side of the crit changes. Some people are saying crit champions are dead, the crit meta is dead. I respectfully disagree. I do think there are definitely going to be some shakeups, and crit maybe won't be as great as it is right now, but I don't think it's anywhere near dead. And one of the reasons is champions like Jinx, who has some sort of attack speed steroid either in their kit or like built into their kit. Because even unlike a Kog'Maw Tristana, Jinx's minigun just scales attack speed. So right now we have 142% without the minigun going. Once we get the minigun going, we can get up to the 223%. And as you may have noticed, I have Hall of Blades. I let it get on cooldown. That's the one that's kind of like Lethal Temple but front loaded. As soon as you attack, you get a burst of attack speed. So now, as you saw for a brief second, I almost had 300% attack speed with Hall of Blades. So I'll get into that towards the end of the video too. So with the current on live build, you will have 100% crit. So that is a little bit of a buff, because on live, this build by itself without a third zeal item will not actually get you to 100% crit. You'll have to build a third item if you want it. So you actually, that's why I'm saying I don't know if it's as, the crit meta is as dead as people are saying. Crit is supposed to be a late game. They're pushing it to wanting it to be a late game kind of a stat now, like a in-game kind of full build thing. So at full build, it is a little bit of a buff to your crit chance. If this was the live build, it'd only be 80%, it's now 100%. Every attack is going to be a crit at this point. Now, granted, those games can be kind of tense, of course, because the game could be on the line. One death could maybe just take out a whole team fight and lose the game. That's something we could talk about in like a different video. In terms of the build, purely speaking, especially with Hall of Blades, which is experimental and probably won't be something Jinx might take. Like I said, it's a front-loaded lethal tempo, so if you're someone that wants attack speed, this could actually be something Jinx might end up having, maybe not. But there's quite a bit of stuff here that could be useful, but you're kind of probably here because you want more of the new stuff. You want to know about Stormrazor and stuff like that. I feel you. That's why I'm here too. So let's get rid of you, and let's get Stormrazor. And let's say you build exactly the same on live, except you just take Stormrazor instead of Infinity Edge. Because since Infinity Edge doesn't give you any other stats, maybe you want the stats of, the attack speed, and the attack damage, and the crit in 2.5 seconds of not attacking. So pretty much the build would be the same, but you trade out Infinity Edge for Stormrazor. One of the things to note first, less attack damage. Almost 20 less attack damage, late game. So that might be a little bit of a nerf in terms of that build. Also less crit. On live, that was 80% crit. Here was 100% crit with Infinity Edge. Without it, it's only 60% crit. Not really doing the most of damage there either as well. So, okay. What if you don't want to build 2 zeal items? You want to build 1 zeal item, but you want that Infinity Edge to double your chance then, right? Alright, I hear you. I understand you. I feel you. Well, now we go this route, and this is where it starts getting a little bit interesting in my opinion. Now we have almost 400 AD. We still only have the 60% crit, but when you have almost 400 AD, I think that's kind of okay. You still have the ability in this particular build to kill tanks with the Last Whisper, and to lifesteal with the Blood Razor, and it looks like this. Not too change change. Jinx is still hovering around a good 200 plus attack speed because of her minigun, so there is that too. If you're someone that has attack speed in your kit, like you're here because you're Kog'Maw, Tristana, or somebody that can also gain attack speed, then yeah, you actually can benefit from something like that too. Not maybe for the full duration Jinx can, because Jinx is just built into her kit. It's lovely, it's brilliant, it's why I love the champion. But let's go back to the drawing board. What if you don't, say, have to deal with a tank? There's no tank. Assassins are meta right now. So you want that Guardian's Angel. A little bit more AD, about 5 more AD, because this has the BF sword in it too. Doesn't really do much else for you. It does give you the stasis, of course. Not when it's full build, of course, or completed, I should say, but it does give you the stasis in terms of if you're building it earlier because you gotta deal with the assassin that's fed in the mid game, you will have the stopwatch, of course. So there's that. This is still relatively the same, like a little bit more AD, still the same about attack speed, still the same crit chance. So then let's get a little bit more oomph in our crit, if you will, by increasing the crit chance. What if instead of an assassin being out of control, you decided I just want more crit? So you still get the rapid fire cannon. So you have the Runon's Hurricane, I should say, Stormrazor, Infinity Edge, and now you got the rapid fire cannon, and then still some life steal just in case, right? Well, you're still missing out on a little bit of a, attack damage. It's not the highest. You now will have 100% crit though, so there is that. I can't orb walk to save my life. Right? Like, now we're kind of doing the same thing over and over. I'm mainly doing this to let you guys see the stats down here. Hollow Blades might be okay. We'll discuss that in a second, but let's go back up here and let's say, well, what about those other items? Jinx might not be one of the people that builds them, but I'm going to build them in this video for you in case you want to build them, either on Jinx or just on a Lucian or something else. Well, if we go Essence Reaver, while we get no crit, we will get some cooldown reduction, which isn't the worst thing, I guess, right? Like 48 seconds on a Super Mega Death Rocket cross map, okay. You do get quite a bit of AD, because maybe you are, let's say, Lucian, and you're a Lucian player that wants to build some crit. You probably won't be building Hurricanes, but you'll be building a Zeal item of some sort, so just sub that in. And in that case, well, let's see. You have over 400 AD, you still only have the 60% crit, and you don't got any extra attack speed either. The cooldown reduction might be nice because you might be spell slinging a bit more than I am, right? Jinx is not really gonna be slinging spells all that much. That's kind of the extent of that, right? It's not going to be the best thing to show you with Jinx in particular. Someone else might be better. But for Jinx, you could make the argument if you just wanted a lot of AD and you were okay with the 60% crit, which is kind of the way I'm going to a little bit close this video out. I'm also going to do one last thing. I'm going to show you guys the Blade of the Ruined King as well. Let's say you want extra life steal because you got to deal with a Rammus or a Malphite or something like that because someone just doesn't like people having fun in this game. So we have... The thing about Blade of the Ruined King is it will give you some AD, but it will give you some attack speed. So now the attack speed, you were close to hitting that gap. Well, now you will hit that gap. And it was really quick. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to let Hollow Blades go on cooldown, and I'm going to attack the dummy. Watch the attack speed down here. It's 195%. But it gets up to 315% on that first attack. No cooldown, no waiting, no nothing. Just right off the bat. That much attack speed. And in a team fight, that could be pretty useful. Now, of course, with Jinx specifically, when you switch to the minigun, you do lose some attack speed. It drops off. With Hollow Blades, though, your first rocket will still come out at about 278% attack speed before dropping all the way back down, with this build in particular, to 143. So, with that said, some concluding thoughts, and then of course, like I said, if you guys have any questions that I didn't cover, make sure to ask me. I'm going to be on the PvE, probably experimenting with this all week just to see what is and isn't, what does and doesn't feel good, stuff like that. It seems like you can do the live build, and you will have 100% crit if you do the live build. There's just some of these other fancier items that if you want to kind of dabble with or not, you may or may not be able to. One of the reasons I bring up Storm Razor as an Infinity Edge replacement, personally, is because I'm thinking about laning phase in your first back. Infinity Edge does not just seem like an item you want to build first anymore, because it only gives you AD. So if you're someone that wants AD, like let's say a Draven or something, then yes, an earlier game AD carry might actually want an earlier Infinity Edge, because they just want the AD, they don't care about the crit yet. But if you're a crit AD carry, usually that's kind of the thing you want to start getting going as soon as possible, especially because of how expensive the items used to be. They were, you know, buffed a bit in terms of the costs were reduced. Now their costs are back up to being high again, and if you're going to be spending 3,700 gold to get an item, you probably don't want just 80 AD. And then boots, and then like a Zeal item later. Like, maybe you do, that's your business. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, no one's perfect. But I'm just saying, one of the things that might be an issue then, let's see where that dummy so the minions can get going. I'm just going to stand here a second, let this fast forward. But one of the issues then could, of course, be if you just have the Infinity Edge, you're not having even 20% crit, right? You're having nothing behind it. It's just 80 AD. And that's kind of the idea. They want AD carries to have to DPS a bit more to give people a chance to shut them down early. Especially something like a Jinx, a late game champion. In the early game, she shouldn't be super powerful, right? And it is what it is. I think for game health, it's fine. Of course, there's a bias in me that will always kind of be like, eh. But at the same time, if I really do care about the game and its success, it means game health-wise, something like this kind of has to happen. It doesn't mean there won't be some tweaks. These changes will be. Can you just stop? Can you stop? I will that's a myth. Well, you walked back into that. Excuse me 1 second. Jeez, I'm trying to make a video for the YouTubes and the people, and they kind of care if they're still watching at this point, so I'm trying to give them quality content, and you're just messing it up, Caitlin. Hat lady. Anyways, as I was saying, for game health's sake, if I take myself out of my bias, I have to say the changes on paper do seem a little bit iffy. Playing with them in the PvE, they don't seem as bad as I think some people are making them out to be. Not gonna say names, but of course, for sake of YouTube and stuff, it might be a smart idea to say, crit's dead. The crit meta's gone. That's it. And that's it. It's over. Crit champions are dead. Stick a fork in them. Views, money, ads, whatever. That's not really my thing. I'm gonna try and give you guys as honest as possible, though know again that because I'm not, say, the best AD carry in the world, take what I say with a grain of salt. Take what I say that it is a little bit through my lens regardless, but I just don't think crit as champions are gonna be in that rough of a spot. I think they're gonna have to do a little bit more work, but I think that's okay. True damage. Wait. Okay, did I slay the enemy or was she executed? It's not... Okay. So, the long story short is, it seems like crit, because it's being pushed to a late game stat, will still be fine late game. That's what crit's supposed to be. If it's a crit meta, it should be a late game meta, and it just wasn't. Static shift and stuff are bursting people, a lot of wrong things are happening, and if I even try to pretend like I care for this game, then I have to say that these changes are good for game health, even though it affects my class in ways that I think are both positive and possibly negative. So with that said, I'm going to end the video here. This has been kind of a Jinx, what she might want and might not want to build. Mainly this is a video so that you guys can decide now after seeing these, items, what they do, what the stats kind of look like, if you think they are good or not. Do you think the live build's fine, which is what we started with? Are you going to want Stormrazor for lane phase early because you're going to want some attack speed at least if you're going to be spending that much gold? And of course, it could be like, on live where you build the BF sword, you build the Zeal, and you complete Stormrazor, and you still have a Zeal, so you still have some crit when you complete the Blood Razor too. Maybe even complete the Zeal item before Stormrazor as well. So these might be the first two items, replacing these as like the first two items, and you're still going to have crit and attack speed and damage then. Difference is, while this gives a little bit less AD, this will give you some more attack speed to go with both your Zeal item and your boots whenever you complete those. So, in conclusion, Caitlyn's going down again. Because that's always a good time, right? Especially, look, if you have to be on my ban list now, because that's what the high elo peoples are doing, I'm just going to spend some extra time just checking you out. I'm going to be done rambling though. What I am going to say is thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you have a question that I didn't cover, make sure to ask me it. I'll be more than happy to answer some questions in the comment section down below to the best of my abilities. I did say I was going to talk about some other AD carries. Hopefully I touched on why some other AD carries that don't build crit might still benefit, or what they might be looking to try and build when these items hit live. When it comes to things like Tryndamere and Yasuo and stuff, there are some possibilities that they might be weak because of these changes. But Riot did note that if need be, they will get compensation buffs. In case you missed that, there was a post about that. Someone asked about those champions, and they were like, if they need help, then we will make sure they get some compensation. So, that's why I ultimately disagree that I don't think crit champions are dead. If you're in a crit meta, this might shift the meta though, so the crit meta might go away. But crit champions, I don't think are going to be like hot garbage or just in a bad spot or anything like that. Jinx is not going to need any compensation buffs or anything like that. I think she's going to be fine as a late game menace she's supposed to be. She's not supposed to be an early game menace. That's I just got to say that. I got to break it to you. If you thought she's supposed to be this like mid game monster, she can be if you know how to snowball and you get a lead, but she's not supposed to be just by default mid-game, just automatically unbeatable kind of a thing, like more mid-game champions are. So, that's all for this video from me. I don't know which video will be next, because I could have a lot of kinks. So until this time, take care. GG, get jinxed. I told myself I wasn't gonna I do that because of Jinx's graffitis in the shape of an X. So because the GG is lowercase, and GG, and then the bigger ones for get jinxed. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna take Caitlyn out while the credits roll. Kind of like that, right? Like it took 4 rockets instead of say 2 rockets, but that's kind of how it should be. It should give the Caitlyn player time to react and be like, am I gonna fight or am I gonna run? If I'm gonna fight, then I might die. If I'm gonna run, I got the chance to run because the rockets don't kill me. So, now we're gonna just cheat and end the game real fast by teleporting around. I'm gonna leave it recording only in case I think of some last thoughts, something I forgot to cover. Yeah, like yeah. Like I get it. Like YouTube views, let's say something's like really in a bad spot that I just don't think is in a bad. Excuse you. I forgot to talk about Hollow Blades briefly. I think in terms of Jinx, Hollow Blades could be an option. It definitely does have reasons why you could justify taking it on Jinx. I just don't actually think people are still going to really go away from Fleet Footwork. Fleet Footwork is getting some nerfs, so just, you know, keep that in mind. But I don't know if the nerfs are really enough to really just make people go, where are you going, minion? Minions! I want to take the tower. You know what? I'm just going to try and keep on course. I just don't know if Hollow Blades will outdo Fleet Footwork and such for people. I do think it is maybe a viable... Why? Why is this a thing? I do think it's a viable option, if I can finish my sentence, for people if they want to take it. So, that's how I'm going to end this video by saying, now we're done with this video. I know which video will be next, because I have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. We're done. Can we do it? Can I just do it this way? Because, like, these minions are just not being okay. See you later.